What's up, guys? So, I don't usually do this with newer movies I review, but after seeing Across the Spider-Verse, I decided to make a spoiler-filled review, where I decided to talk more about the stuff that I couldn't talk about in my non-spoiler review, but decided to save all of that for this video. And for this video, I thought it would be appropriate just to wear this shirt again, since I wore this shirt when I saw the movie, and I'm wearing it again for this video, like I did in my non-spoiler review, because I don't know, I guess just to add some more consistency, I guess. Now again, that's a heads up. This is a spoiler warning. This video is going to be filled with spoilers for the film, so if you have not seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse yet, don't watch this video because I'm gonna spoil almost every big thing in this film. But if you have seen Across the Spider-Verse, then you're good to watch this video. But if you haven't seen it and for whatever reason don't care about spoilers, then I guess you're fine to watch this video. But remember, you have been warned. So if you've seen my non-spoiler review, then you already know I really enjoyed Across the Spider-Verse. I thought it was a lot of fun. Maybe I liked Into the Spider-Verse a little bit more because it had more of a complete story, but it still had compelling characters, incredible animation, and a great cliffhanger, which I'll talk more about in a minute. That does get me excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I do want to watch Across the Spider-Verse again because of how much I enjoyed it. I am gonna get the Blu-ray when that comes out. Now, what really surprised me is how this movie starts. It doesn't start with Miles and how he's doing in his life in New York yet. Instead, it just starts with Gwen and her life in her universe and the friendship that she used to have with her Peter Parker before he turns himself into the Lizard like he did in the comics. And the conflict that she has with her father, Captain Stacy, after he thinks that she killed Peter in that homecoming dance, even though we know she didn't kill him at all. And he frames her for that, and that puts her in a serious conflict between her and her father. And she is forced to keep her secret identity as a secret from him. And even after she takes off her mask in front of him after taking down the Vulture, you can see more of the conflict in him because he is still trying to arrest her after she takes off her mask, but you can still see the conflict in him thanks to the watercolor animation for showing that, which I'll talk more about that later. And that gets her to go off with the 2099 Spider-Man and the Jessica Drew Spider-Woman, who later becomes her mentor after that they helped her take down the Vulture and took him back to his universe. And I actually felt bad for her throughout the whole opening prologue scene. It gets you to learn more about her as a character, and she's one of the things, like I said in my original review, that I thought was handled better in this film than she was in the first film, because she has more layers as a character. Like, she just lost her best friend and her father, and it gets you to understand a little more of why she's become close to Miles in his universe. Speaking of Miles, he goes through some conflict as well, because he's still saving people as Spider-Man, but also trying to keep his secret identity a secret, as well as keeping the idea of him being friends with other Spider people like Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy a secret, which of course gets his parents suspicious about what he's doing, because he's disappearing on his parents a lot, whether they're in his meetings in school or in his dad's promotion ceremony where he's promoted to being captain. And you can tell that Miles is feeling bad for not telling them the truth, because you can tell that he does want to tell them the truth so that he doesn't keep getting himself into trouble, but he also knows that if he does, that could put both of them in serious risk. And that part with both Miles and Gwen going through that conflict, I thought was handled really well, and that's one of the things I've always loved about the comic book films that I've mentioned in the past. Like, some of my favorites growing up were the ones where you get to care about the people behind the mask, And this film, just like the first one, does it really well here. And both Shameik Moore and Haliee Steinfeld are really good as Gwen and Miles. In fact, everyone in the voice acting does a really good job. Like, Jake Johnson is still fun as the Peter B. Parker, which I was happy to see his Spider-Man again. Because ever since I watched Into the Spider-Verse, I've always enjoyed his Spider-Man being a more laid-back and washed-up type of Spider-Man, even though he's not really washed up anymore in this film, but he still got that laid-back, comical feeling that he had before. I also thought Oscar Isaac as 2099 Spider-Man was kind of threatening when he's on screen, which I'll talk more about him later. Now let's talk more about the animation. For me, this might be the best animation I have seen all year. It's outstanding how much detail and different types of animation the animators had to do. With, like I said in my original review, the comic book style is still there, as well as a more newspaper and poster style for characters like Spider-Punk, as well as going to the Lego universe a couple of times, which, by the way, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the writers of this film, also directed the Lego movie from 9 years ago, so it's kind of a cool nod to that film if you think about it. And it still uses that watercolor animation when we focus on Gwen's universe, which is also supposed to be accurate to her comics, and this movie uses most of that to show the emotions that both her and her dad are feeling in those scenes. Because when it focuses on her in her room, everything is dark blue and depressing because her life could crumble if she decides to tell her father the truth, because he still thinks that Spider-Woman killed Peter Parker when he was the Lizard. And when he enters her room, she just runs up and hugs him, and everything around her turns purple and vibrant because part of her is still happy that he doesn't know so that things don't crumble around her. And the way they were able to use the animation throughout this scene is pretty impressive. Now let's talk about the Easter eggs, cameos, and nods to other Spider-Man related stuff, because this film has a lot. Like, for one, the Spot is able to gain the ability to travel to other dimensions with his portals. Like, he enters into the Lego universe at one point, as well as the Venom universe where he runs into Mrs. Chen. And when Miles gets to see more of the Spider People in 2099's universe, that's when you get a lot more of the Easter eggs. Like, you get references to the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire and the Amazing Spider-Man universe with Andrew Garfield. You also get other cameos like the Spider-Man from the Insomniac games, and you also see Spider-Man from the Spectacular Spider-Man series at one point, as well as the Spider-Man from the 1960s series. Jeez, there are a lot of cameos and Easter eggs in this movie. You even have Donald Glover in this movie as the live-action Prowler, who is also kind of the same character from Spider-Man Homecoming, but not as the Prowler, just as Aaron Davis. So now that I got all that nerdgasm stuff out of the way, let's now talk about 2099 Spider-Man, or Miguel O'Hara. His Spider-Man is kind of a more darker version of Spider-Man, like the kind that's not as lighthearted as the others. He is the one that's been keeping an eye on other universes like Miles is, so that none of them would collapse. Like, mess up a part that's supposed to happen in one universe so that it doesn't fall apart and be destroyed. And that kind of makes him a more mean-spirited Spider-Man, because he doesn't like the idea of Miles being another Spider-Man, because the spider that bit him in the first film was an accident. It wasn't supposed to bite him. And apparently Miles wasn't supposed to destroy that multiverse power generator in the end of the first film, because that was able to create the Spot, which is why the Spot is a big threat for Miles, which is also why Miguel wants nothing to do with Miles. And then all the other Spider People, including Gwen and Peter, decide to tell Miles that his dad is gonna die in his universe in 2 days because Miles saved a police officer in another universe that he wasn't supposed to save, and that kind of messes up the fabric of reality in that universe. And if he decides to save his dad in his universe, then his universe will be destroyed. And that puts puts Miles on the run when he goes into this machine thing that's supposed to send him back to his universe, but it accidentally sends him to the wrong universe that looks similar to his, except there's no Spider-Man, and Aaron Davis is still alive, and New York is in ruins where there's fire and death everywhere. So in this universe, New York is basically the bad Hill Valley from Back to the Future Part 2, and Gwen is forced to go back to her universe after Miles escapes, and she tries to convince Miguel to go easy on him. He decides to take her back to his universe where she will have to deal with her dad again, so that she wouldn't help Miles, and that kind of makes Miguel look like a bad Spider-Man, like the kind that's not doing the great power comes great responsibility thing right. Then after Gwen gets back to her universe, she finds her dad is home and he's not trying to arrest her anymore because he just quit being a cop and he realizes what he thought of her being a murderer is wrong. They have a heartfelt moment and it's touching, and she gets one of those portal watches from Spider-Punk. Man, I've already been talking about this film without mentioning more about the Spot. Like I said in my original review, I didn't think he was a threatening villain for the most part. He was kind of a butt of a joke with his comical moments in the film. I didn't think he was that big of a villain until halfway into the film, where he gets into another universe and he finds another multiverse power generator. He gets excited and he becomes more powerful and looks more creepy than before. And seeing him get those powers in that scene and setting him up to destroy everything Miles cares about in the end of this film for the third film does set him up to be a very threatening villain in the third film, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. I just wish there was a lot more of that in this movie. And now we get to the big cliffhanger where Miles is taken hostage by Aaron Davis and the Prowler. Except in this universe that Miles is trapped in, the Prowler is another Miles Morales who lost his father in his universe. And Gwen gets the help of Peter B. Parker as well as a handful of other Spider-Men on her side to go to find Miles in that dimension and save him and try to convince him that they are on his side. And that's where the movie ends. They just try to find Miles and that's the end of the movie. We don't get to see more of that arc until the third film. Like I said, this doesn't feel like a complete movie, and that's on purpose because we're going to get more of that in the third movie, and when that comes out, that's going to feel more complete. And I really hope that Beyond the Spider-Verse is awesome, because if it is, then maybe it might make me like Across the Spider-Verse even more. So guys, now that you've seen Across the Spider-Verse, let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. Like, do you love it as much as the first film, or not as much? Let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. And as always, if you like this review, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, and it helps my channel grow. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.